Hello and welcome to APTN National News. I'm Sav Jonesa and I'll be your host this Friday afternoon. Prime Minister Mark Carney announced the second set of projects on Thursday that will be referred to the new Major Projects Office, where they are set to be fast-tracked through the regulatory process. 3 of the 6 projects have direct impacts on Indigenous communities. At a press conference in Terrace, BC, Carney announced 2 projects that will have direct impacts on Indigenous people in the region. Lism's LNG is a proposed floating liquefied natural gas export facility located on a site owned by the Nisga'a Nation in northwest BC. Another project is the North Coast Transmission Line. It proposes to expand the electrical grid between Terrace and Prince George. The Prime Minister also referred the Iqaluit New Kiksotit Hydro Project to Major Projects Office. The Inuit-owned project will help move Nunavut off diesel fuel to electrical power. Reporters asked Carney about Indigenous opposition to some of these projects, including the Lism LNG project.
Referring to the MPO, the Major Projects Office, does not mean the project is approved. It means that all the efforts are being put in place from the federal government in order to create the conditions so it could move forward. But those decisions are taken by many parties, including very much First Nations.
Canada's spy service is warning that China and Russia have significant interests in the Arctic and are spying on governments and businesses developing the vast region's potential.
Non-Arctic states, including the People's Republic of China, seek to gain a strategic and economic foothold in the region. Russia, an Arctic state with a significant military presence in the region, remains unpredictable and aggressive.
Canadian Security Intelligence Service Director Dan Rogers detailed the threats facing Canada in a speech Thursday. He says SCIS has shared the information with Inuit and territorial governments to help them consider national security when forming partnerships with foreign companies and investors. Now to Winnipeg, where news of a convicted killer being let out of prison has some of his victims' family members on edge. Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew also weighed in Thursday, saying Sean Lamb's statutory release from prison 12 years after his conviction is, quote, not justice. Sean Lamb pleaded guilty to manslaughter in 2013 for killing 2 First Nation women in Winnipeg. They include 25-year-old Carolyn Sinclair and 18-year-old Lorna Blacksmith. Lamb was sentenced 20 years minus 2 years for time already served. Second-degree murder charges were stayed due to not enough evidence in the death of 31-year-old Tanya Nipanak. Lamb served 2/3 of his sentence and is now under supervised release. Kinew says Lamb's release has inspired him to write a letter to Prime Minister Mark Carney. He says he wants the Prime Minister to confront the, quote, bigger picture questions regarding the way parole is administered and the broader systemic issues of missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit people. Have a listen.
How does this help the general public's sense of public safety? How does this help victims' family members heal and feel secure in the community? How does this help foster a feeling that our justice system actually delivers justice? I personally don't see this news as helping that process, and so I think there's a number of issues that I'll be raising with the Prime Minister, and it is about parole, it is about statutory release, it's about sentencing more generally, and just ensuring that if somebody takes multiple lives in our society, that they're going to be held accountable.
The fight over hunting on Crown land reached a Winnipeg courtroom Thursday. The Manitoba Wildlife Federation, which represents the interests of hunters in the province, squared off against Bloodvein River First Nation. The suit claims the First Nation, located about 200 kilometers north of Winnipeg, set up an illegal highway blockade, and they say that's preventing licensed hunters from using the Crown land to hunt moose. Court heard Bloodvein River First Nation first set up a road check stop at Rice River Road to prevent the flow of drugs and alcohol into the nation. However, the Wildlife Federation claims that turned into a blockade later in the summer, and licensed moose hunters are being turned away, unable to access these gaming hunting areas. MWF is calling the action unlawful and is asking for an injunction. Bloodvein is calling for the motion to be dismissed. The First Nation acknowledges it does not have the right to keep hunters away. However, it says its check stop is crucial to keep drugs and alcohol out of the nation.
Just wanting to ensure that our members are safe, wanting to ensure that we're listening to what our members are saying. You have grandmothers, you have mothers, you have grandfathers, you have fathers, and they're all saying that they want to stop the drugs and alcohol that are coming in.
A Manitoba Wildlife Federation advisor says a quick decision would be welcome.
We didn't know if we'd have a decision made today. Looks like the justice is going to provide a decision on November 27th, so we're happy to hear that's coming quickly before the season begins, and it's hard to say which way it's going to go right now.
The province and the Minister of Natural Resources and Indigenous Futures, Ian Bushy, are both listed as co-respondents on the court action. The province's lawyers told court the province is not taking a position on the matter, saying it's the province's view Rice River Road should be accessible to all Manitobans. The court adjourned until Thursday, November 27th. And now to the Northwest Territories, where video journalist Bruce Dela Cruz had a rare opportunity to tour the Giant Mine remediation project just outside Yellowknife, and he shares his findings in this report.
Yellowknife's Giant Mine operated from 1948 to 2004, extracting over 7 million ounces of gold from the area. However, 237 tons of highly toxic arsenic trioxide was left behind when Royal Oak Mines, the mine's owner, went bankrupt in the 90s, forcing the mine to close and creating an environmental disaster. Today, the Giant Mine Remediation Project is a joint venture between the federal and territorial governments to manage the arsenic waste and see to its long-term care. Journalists in Yellowknife were given a tour of the mine this month and were given updates on several ongoing projects, including the new water treatment plants that will remove arsenic from contaminated mine water before it goes into Great Slave Lake.
We began construction in 2023. We awarded the contract, and so we're in year 3 of construction.
Natalie Plato is Deputy Director of the Giant Mine Remediation Project. She says the new treatment plant replaces the current system in place since 1981 and will have effluent levels of the discharged mine water meet drinking water requirements. This was at the request of the Yellowknives Dene First Nation, as their proximity to the mine raises their concern of contamination.
Effluent treatment plant pumps water from the underground and stores it, and then seasonally we treat it and discharge it to Baker Pond and Baker Creek. The new water treatment plant, we will meet the new effluent criteria for the new water license for the Giant Mine Remediation Project, which has much more stringent discharge criteria. And we will also be continually pumping the water from the underground 24/7, 365 days a year. So the treatment discharge period will be continuous.
Currently, the city of Yellowknife and Yellowknives Dene receive their drinking water from the Yellowknife River upstream before the river passes the Giant Mine and enters Great Slave Lake. Plato continues with more input the Yellowknives Dene had on other areas of the project, including how finely crushed rock left over from processing gold or tailings would be disposed.
A significant one we heard from the Yellowknives Dene First Nation was they wanted the site to remain gray and ugly, so people would remember in future generations that there was a mine here. Normal practice in tailings rehabilitation or reclamation is to vegetate a tailings cover. In this case, we went with a rock cover, so the tailings will remain rocky and they will not be revegetated, so people can remember that there's tailings there.
Plato sees the continued input from the Yellowknives Dene and other Indigenous peoples as a must-have for the remediation project, in order to take better steps together to clean up the mine's toxic legacy.
We are on the traditional lands of the Yellowknife Standing First Nation, the Cleacho and the North Slave, and that we should keep them involved and make sure they agree with the remediation plan going forward, because to be honest, they weren't consulted originally when the mine opened, so I think it's a really significant step we're taking to make sure they're involved in the remediation.
The new water treatment plant is expected to be operational by 2027, with the entire remediation project to be completed by 2038, and ongoing monitoring to continue in perpetuity. Bruce De La Cruz, APTN National News, Yellowknife.
Indigenous musicians made their mark at Quebec's version of the Juno Awards. We'll have that story after this break. Quebec's music industry galas were held in Montreal last week. For many Indigenous artists, it was their first nomination at Le Desk, Quebec's version of the Junos. Stephanie de Sève was on the red carpet at the first gala.
Je suis vraiment bien balancée, ancrée, puis la famille nous ramène tout le temps à l'essentiel, à l'humilité, puis fait que je suis vraiment bien dans tout ce qui se passe.
That's how Soleil Lonière reacted to being honored with her nominations, a major recognition of her work. She was the first Indigenous artist to win Les Francouvertes in 2024, a competition for new voices in music.
Je suis nommée aujourd'hui pour spectacle de l'année, artiste, spectacle de l'année langue autochtone et autres langues. Fait que pour mon projet, mais il y a aussi un projet dans lequel j'ai fait partie, Héritière, qui est aussi nommé ce soir, fait que c'est super.
The multidisciplinary artist from Maastricht has just celebrated an important birthday.
Hey, j'ai eu 40 ans cet été. Ouais, merci.
40 years is how long the Himujwit group has been playing together. 35 to be precise.
This is coming out of the blue that we did not even expect at least a nomination.
Hailing from their small community in Inukjuak, the four members of the group were surprised by their nomination. Their self-titled debut album was nominated in the Best Album in Indigenous Language category. Their songs in Inuktitut were written in their younger years.
We finally had the opportunity to record them recently. They finally got out maybe after 20 years.
The band is made up of Charlie, Paul, Eric, and Joby. Their retro sound is inspired by Inuit artists they loved in the 60s and 70s, such as Charlie Adams. They have never been able to make a living from their art, which is why they have not released an album until now.
I was working in the past like mining. Like I was 3 weeks on, 2 weeks off for 17 years. Now finally I finished my job and I have a chance to play with them more often.
Singer-songwriter Sagi Ottawa also received his first ever nomination in the same category.
Je l'ai partagé avec ma petite famille, ma femme, mes enfants, mes parents, mes soeurs, mon frère, puis ainsi de suite, là. Puis disons qu'on a fêté un petit peu.
After 20 years of making music, the nomination happened just at the right time. Because that evening, Sagi carried someone special in his heart.
Mon frère Pinaskin qui est disparu depuis 15 ans. Je sais pas, là, mais on dirait qu'il est avec moi ce soir.
His entire family drove 4 hours down from Manawan to support him on his big night. But the big surprise of the night is Himujwit winning Best Indigenous Album of the Year with their debut effort.
Shocking! Shocker! I think I'm sneaking.
Their fans in Nunavik showed their enthusiasm for this victory, which was as unexpected as the nomination.
We've been playing in front of our community members for a very long time.
Additionally, Elisepi and her team also won 4 awards for Inuktitut, including Show of the Year, Variety Performance, Musical Comedy, and Indigenous Artist of the Year at Sunday's Gala. Stephanie de Sève for APTN National News, Montreal.
Now we want to tell you about this week's web poll questions. Our first question was, do you think a forced 72-hour detox for methamphetamine users will help fight their addictions and the drug crisis? Your options are yes, it will help, no, it won't help, or unsure. Our second question, should members of parliament be allowed to switch political parties while still holding their seat? You can choose yes, no, or unsure. And our last question was, do you take part in any activities to honor Remembrance Day? Yes or no. You can go to our website, aptnnews.ca/poll to cast your ballot, and we'll have those results for you next week. We have to take one last break now. We'll be right back, so stay tuned. It will be 7 and cloudy in St. John's, 2 and lots of sun in Fredericton. Happy Valley Goose Bay will be -2 with snow and -10 in Kuujjuaq. Montreal is 2 and rainy, 2 and cloudy in Quebec City. 8 in Sarnia and 1 in North Bay. Wawa 0, -4 in snow in Big Trout Lake. -6 in Churchill and 0 in Puckatawagan. 6 in Winnipeg, Gimli, and Princess Harbor. 10 in Estevan and 1 in North Battleford. -4 in snow in Stony Rapids, 1 in La Ronge. Today is -7 and sunny in Fort Chipewyan, -2 in sun in Fort McMurray. It's +7 in Calgary, +12 in Lethbridge. 10 in Vancouver and Victoria, 3 in Quesnel. -7 in Fort Nelson, 4 in Prince George. -5 in Whitehorse, and a sunny -26 in Old Crow. -11 in Yellowknife, -18 in sun in Norman Wells. -13 in Tuktoyaktuk, -20 in Delaunay. It's 0 in Well Cove, Chesterfield, and Arviat. -5 in Iqaluit, -11 in Resolute. The famed Native Earth Performing Arts announced their lineup for its 43rd season of Indigenous theater, dance, and performance. Among the projects is Cree writer and actor Todd Houseman, Dungeons and Dragons inspired play, Children of the Bear. The play follows a young mixed Cree family as they attempt to rise above the colonial structures that surround them. Our Creeson Adjkute recently spoke to Todd Houseman. Here's that interview.
Todd, thanks so much for being here. Before we get into Children of the Bear, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and some of your previous work?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm from Edmonton, Alberta. I'm a registered band member on Paul First Nation. My family's also from Pigeon Lake. But I currently live here in Montreal, where I went to the National Theatre School and where I currently teach at the National Theatre School. So yeah, I've been working as an actor for quite a few years now. Some of my more notable work would be Folk Lords, which is my sketch comedy web series TV show. And I've also written a play called Whiteface, which kind of went around the Fringe tour, the Fringe circuit, and we received a lot of great reviews from that show. But yeah, primarily I work as a theater stage actor. I've done a little bit of film through that Folk Lords, and as well as my dad's TV show, Caution May Contain Nuts. So yeah, that's just a bit of my more notable work, I would say.
Sounds like a fun and interesting life, Todd. You received the RBC Emerging Artists Award just last year. What did an honor like that mean for you?
Yeah, that was exciting. I mean, the Governor General Awards. I've never been to that award ceremony before, but it was quite the to-do. We had a lot of Canadian celebrities there and lots of really good people. We got to meet the Governor General, and yeah, it was kind of exciting to be a part of such a huge national-wide event and to be acknowledged for a lot of my work in either theater or my work in writing and film. And so yeah, it was definitely exciting. I got to dress up in probably the nicest clothes I ever got to wear, and yeah, it was cool. I got to meet Thompson Highway, the famous playwright, and yeah, it was really an incredible experience.
That's so awesome. There's a lot of Thompson Highway fans here. Children of the Bear sounds like such a cool and immersive play. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been working on this play for about 5 years now with a company in Toronto called Outside the March. And it's it's a large-scale immersive play, which means that the audience can kind of experience it in a different way than a typical play. They can sort of choose how the story goes based on which storyline they want to follow. And it follows, it's loosely based on like the autobiographical story of my family growing up in Edmonton. Like we moved around quite a lot and we've been through a lot of different sort of tumultuous situations, but we've always had this love of fantasy, like video games and the fantasy narrative, like Dungeons and Dragons and things like that. So I kind of wanted to highlight this Indigenous connection to fantasy and how often we grow up with these stories that sound like fantastic and they're sort of from like more of a colonial medieval mindset. But as we grow into our own ceremony way of life, we start to embrace these very real ways of being warriors and being a part of like a society that comes from a long line of kings like Ogamawi and stuff, as we say in Cree. So the story sort of shows this evolution to go from this medieval fantasy made-up world into this real world of embracing the warrior society and being a part of something that feels more real and supported by this legacy here in the country. So it's like we play with like fantasy narratives like swords and wizards and things like that, but then they slowly evolve and change into warriors, into Ugichitawak.
That's really cool and interesting. And Todd, what do you hope audiences learn or take away from the play?
Yeah, I hope that audiences will really examine their relationship to Indigenous storytelling, because I think a lot of Indigenous people and non-Indigenous people in this country, we all have a relationship to the land that we're on, whether we know it or not. So I want people to start to think about what their relationship is to these stories and present them with an opportunity to either delve further into that or to become more further separated from that, which is kind of like how video games offer you these options where sometimes they're not always clear. But I want people to start to just examine what relationship they have or don't have to Indigenous storytelling and allow them to live within one of our stories for an evening.
And finally, Todd, where can people see Children of the Bear, and are there hopes to take it to other locations?
Absolutely. So yeah, we're showing our presentation at the Wasagachuk Festival here or in Toronto with Native Earth Theatre, and we're going to be showing that on the 21st and the 23rd of November. And this is kind of our first time testing a lot of these game mechanics with the audience, because it's not like a typical play. So we're going to be exploring a lot of these ways of sharing a part of the story. But then, we absolutely have plans both next year and the year after to start touring this show to as many communities as we can. We'd love for you to come on out and check out the show if you're in Toronto and see if you can help us start spreading this story around the country.
We'd be happy to help. Very innovative there, Todd. That's Plains Cree writer and actor Todd Houseman from the Treaty 6 territory, currently residing in Montreal. Todd, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Great to chat with you.
That's all the news we have for your APTN National News this beautiful Friday afternoon. Make sure to check back at 6 p.m. Eastern, where our host Dennis Ward will bring you the latest updates from across the country. I'm Sav Jonza, and from all of us here at APTN, thank you so much for watching and take care.